Hello, my friends. In this video, I will tell you about my vacation in Hawaii. It was beautiful, calm, and full of moments I will never forget. My name is Rowan, and every morning I woke up to the sound of waves and the warm sun on my face. If you dream of peace and happiness, stay with me until the end. And if you like this story, please like the video, share it, and subscribe for more simple and beautiful stories. I looked at the plane ticket in my hand and felt something shift. It wasn't just a trip. It was my way out. Out of the stress, the noise, the endless routine that was swallowing me whole. Hawaii. It felt like a dream I was finally brave enough to touch. The airport felt cold and rushed, but inside me was a quiet hope. As the plane took off, I watched the world below grow smaller, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel stuck. I closed my eyes and let my mind drift to beaches, sunsets, peace. The moment I stepped off that plane, I knew something was different. The air smelled like salt and flowers. The breeze touched my skin gently, like a welcome I didn't expect. I took a deep breath, and it felt like the first real breath I'd taken in months. I didn't come to Hawaii to chase adventure. I came to find myself again, to rest, to breathe, to remember what it means to be alive. And standing there, surrounded by beauty and silence, I whispered to myself, "This is the beginning of something new." I woke up to a soft light spilling across the bed. No noise, no pressure, just silence and sunlight. For the first time in so long, I didn't feel like I had to run. I just existed. I sat up slowly, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. The room smelled like sea air, like salt and something sweet. My feet touched the floor, and even the wood felt warm. It felt like this place knew I needed healing. When I opened the balcony door, the world greeted me gently. Palm trees swayed like dancers in the morning breeze. Birds sang softly, not loud, not wild, just calm. And that sky. It looked like a painting God made slowly. I leaned on the wooden rail and watched the waves. They moved with rhythm, like they'd been doing it forever. It made me wonder how long I'd been rushing through life, missing moments like this, just to stay busy. I made a small cup of coffee and held it with both hands. The heat, the smell, the taste, everything felt stronger here. I sat down on a chair that creaked just a little when I moved. It was perfect. Not expensive, not new, just real. Below me, I saw children laughing, chasing each other through the sand. An old couple walked hand in hand, like the world had shrunk to just them. A group of friends carried surfboards and shouted with joy. They didn't know me, but somehow they felt like a reminder. A reminder that life is more than work, more than clocks, more than noise and deadlines. In that moment, I remembered who I was. Not what people expected, not what I forced myself to be, but the me that smiles at sunlight. The me that feels wonder just from a breeze. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. After my slow morning, I decided to go out and explore. I didn't have a plan, no map, no list, no must-see spots. Just me, walking, looking, breathing. The little town near the beach felt like something out of a storybook. Colorful houses with open windows, shops with handmade signs, people smiling like they'd known peace for years. I walked past a fruit stand and the old man there waved at me. "Good morning, friend," he said with a voice full of kindness. I smiled back, not out of politeness, but because I felt it, like we were both humans sharing a simple, sweet second. I bought a mango, and it tasted better than any mango I'd ever had. Maybe it was the sun, maybe it was the air, or maybe it was just the fact that I had slowed down enough to notice it. Later, I passed a small cafe with music playing softly. The door was open. The chairs were mismatched. It was perfect. I sat by the window and ordered something I couldn't pronounce. A young woman brought me the drink. She had freckles and a calm smile. We talked about the town, about how she ended up here, about nothing and everything, and just like that, I felt seen. By someone I'd never met, someone who wasn't rushing, someone who had time to sit down, to laugh, to ask how I was, and really mean it. We talked about where I was from. She nodded and said, "Maybe you came to remember." That line stayed with me, not because it sounded deep, but because it was. She said people come to this island thinking they're lost, but maybe they're just tired. Tired of pretending, tired of performing. I nodded quietly, because, yes, that was me, tired. But now, slowly, waking up again. When I left the cafe, she smiled and said, "Come back tomorrow, we'll talk again." And I knew I would. Not for the coffee, not for the view, but for the connection. That evening, after a day filled with sun, stories, and slow walks, I decided not to go back inside. I stayed outside, barefoot in the warm sand, just listening to the ocean. No phone, no music, just the waves, breathing in and out like the earth itself was alive and peaceful. The sky turned orange, then purple, then a dark kind of blue I had never noticed before. The stars started to appear, one by one, like they were showing up just for me. I lay back on the sand, my hands behind my head, and I just stared up. And that's when the thoughts started coming. The quiet ones, the real ones. I started thinking about my life back home. The stress, the fast mornings, the heavy nights, the way I was always trying to prove something. To people who never even asked. I thought about how I'd forgotten how to just be, how I always had to do more, be better, get ahead. But now I was just lying there under 1,000 stars, and for the first time in forever, that felt like enough. I remembered my younger self, the boy who used to dream big, the boy who believed in magic, in stories, in people. I asked myself quietly, where did he go? And the answer hit me hard. He didn't go anywhere. He was just waiting for me to slow down, to come back, to remember him. I closed my eyes for a second. A soft wind passed over my face like a whisper, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the loud kind. Not the kind you post online, but the quiet, deep kind. The kind that wraps around you and says, "You're okay, just as you are." I stayed there until the stars filled the whole sky, until it felt like the universe had opened up just to show me, "You're small, but you matter." And in that moment, I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel broken. I just felt alive. The next morning, I woke up early, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. The sound of the waves had become my favorite kind of alarm clock, soft, patient, and full of life. I slipped into my sandals, threw on a loose shirt, and stepped outside. No plan, no schedule, no destination, just walking. The streets were still quiet. Shops were just opening. Locals nodded as I passed by, their smiles unforced, like they knew something I didn't. And maybe they did. There was something magical about walking with no goal in mind. I didn't check the time. I didn't look at a map. I just followed whatever path felt good under my feet. Sometimes we walk to go somewhere, but this time I walked just to feel the air, the warmth, the heartbeat of a place that felt far from the noise of the world. I passed a tiny coffee stall with music playing from an old radio. I stopped, ordered something I couldn't even pronounce, sat on a wooden bench that wobbled slightly, and just watched. A dog lay sleeping on the sidewalk. A woman hung colorful sheets on a line. Kids ran barefoot, laughing at something too simple for words. It reminded me. Joy doesn't need much. I kept walking, past murals I hadn't seen before, past gardens growing from cracks in the pavement. It felt like the island was alive and whispering to me. "Slow down," it said. "Don't rush. Don't chase. Just be." So I walked. And walked. And with every step, I let go of something heavy. Stress. Expectations. Self-doubt. The need to always know what's next. I didn't need a map anymore. I was already exactly where I was meant to be. By the time I found my way back, hours had passed. But it didn't matter, because for once, time wasn't my enemy. That walk. It didn't take me to a famous place, but it brought me back to myself. That afternoon, something shifted, not around me, but within me. I was sitting in the same spot I'd chosen every day, under that tall palm tree near the shoreline. My towel was spread across the warm sand, and my feet were buried just deep enough to feel the earth hugging them gently. The ocean breeze brushed softly through my hair, and the sun, oh, the sun painted everything golden, like it was giving the whole world a warm goodbye kiss. I had no plans, no schedule, no pressure to be anywhere. And for the first time in a very long time, I wasn't thinking about tomorrow. I looked around. To my right, an old couple was holding hands in silence. They weren't talking. They didn't have to. Their quiet smile said more than any words ever could. To my left, a group of teenagers were playing volleyball, their laughter echoing through the air like music. Loud, wild, alive. Then it happened. A little boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, ran past me chasing a blue kite. He stopped suddenly, turned back, and handed me a tiny, broken shell. Not shiny. Not special. Just a gift. He didn't say a word. Just smiled with those wide, innocent eyes and ran back to his game like the moment never even happened. But for me, that moment became everything. I held the shell in my hand and stared at it. And for some reason, I felt tears fill my eyes. Not from sadness, but from something deeper. A kind of joy that almost hurts because it's real. That broken shell, the laughter, the breeze, the sun, they all stitched something back together in me. Something I didn't even know was broken, something tired, something that had forgotten how to be present. I breathed in deeply. The salt, the sunscreen, the grilled pineapple from a nearby stand. Even the soft hum of a ukulele playing in the distance. Everything was here, and I was here too. It hit me. This trip wasn't about big adventures or perfect pictures. It was about stillness. It was about being alive and feeling it. I looked out at the ocean, memorizing the way the waves curled and danced, how the sun shimmered on their backs like diamonds. And in that exact second, I promised myself something. No matter how loud life gets when I return, I'll always remember this quiet. I'll carry this moment like a secret treasure, like a message from the universe whispering, "This is what peace feels like." I closed my eyes, not to sleep, but to remember, because some memories deserve to be felt, not just seen. The morning of my last day in Hawaii felt heavier than the others. The same ocean breeze that once danced playfully now whispered like a farewell. The sun rose slower, as if it, too, didn't want to say goodbye. Everything felt quieter. Even the waves seemed to move with more hesitation, like they knew. Today was the end of something special. I stood on the balcony of my hotel, coffee in hand, watching the island slowly wake up. Below me, the same streets I walked every day were coming to life. A barista was scribbling chalk quotes on her cafe board. A surfer was stretching by the beach, wax in one hand, his eyes already locked on the sea. And me? I stood still, heart full, soul heavy. I had packed my suitcase the night before, but there was something I couldn't pack. The feeling, that deep calm, that freedom, that strange sense of belonging I had found in a place I had never known before. I walked to the beach one last time. Each step felt like a countdown. I took off my shoes and let the sand press into my feet, just like on the first day. But it didn't feel the same. Now it felt like home. I reached the shore and stood there, letting the waves come and go. I let them speak to me one last time, and in their crashing rhythm I heard it clearly. You came as a visitor, but you're leaving as part of us. That hit me, harder than I expected. I bent down, picked up another small shell, this one smoother, cleaner than the last, and tucked it into my pocket. A reminder, a quiet souvenir not of a place, but of a version of me I had rediscovered. As I walked away, I kept turning my head back, again and again, like a kid leaving something behind. And then, just before leaving the beach for good, I whispered, "Thank you." Not to anyone in particular, not to the people or the weather, but to the experience, to the silence, to the growth. The taxi arrived, and I sat inside watching the palm trees blur into the distance. Music played faintly on the radio. A ukulele song, the same one I had heard days ago. Tears didn't fall, but they were close. You know the kind. The type that sits quietly behind your eyes, waiting. And that's how Hawaii said goodbye to me. Not with words, not with tears, but with a feeling so full, it became part of me. And as the plane rose higher into the clouds, I realized something. I didn't just leave Hawaii. A part of me stayed behind, barefoot in the sand, smiling at the ocean. And just like that, the trip ended. But the feeling didn't. Hawaii gave me more than sunsets and beaches. It gave me silence I didn't know I needed. And a version of me I had almost forgotten. Now, whenever life gets loud again, I'll close my eyes, hear the waves, and remember who I became on that island.